Most Christians can quote John 3:16 from memory. Almost none of them can quote what Jesus actually said about the exact thing that's keeping them up at 2 a.m. That's not an accident. That's avoidance. Jesus talked about worry more directly and more often than almost any other subject in his entire recorded ministry, and most of it gets skipped in Sunday sermons because it's uncomfortable, not because it's unclear or hard to find. 5 specific statements, pulled from different moments, different crowds, different personal crises, spoken years apart to completely different audiences. Each one lands harder than any self-help quote ever could, because none of them were written to comfort you into feeling better about your anxiety. They were written to correct the actual belief underneath it. Statement 1. Which of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Matthew 6:27. Read that again slowly. Which of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Because it moves fast the first time. It's not rhetorical comfort. It's a math problem, and Jesus is pointing out that you already know the answer before he finishes the sentence. Worry has never once extended a life, closed a gap, or changed an outcome. Not one single time in human history. Most people treat anxiety like preparation, like running the disaster in your head somehow softens the blow if it happens. It doesn't soften anything. It just makes you suffer the bad outcome twice. Once in your imagination, and once for real, if it ever even arrives. The boundary. If the worry isn't producing an action, it's not vigilance, no matter how responsible it feels. It's rehearsed suffering, and Jesus called it exactly that to a crowd's face, not privately, not gently. The consequence for ignoring this one is quiet but constant. You spend decades of your life pre-living catastrophes that mostly never happen and calling that discipline instead of what it actually is. Statement 2. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Matthew 6:34. Most people read this as permission to be lazy about the future, an excuse to avoid planning. It's the opposite of that. It's a boundary line drawn tightly around your attention, on purpose. You were only given the mental and emotional bandwidth for one day's trouble at a time. Carrying tomorrow's trouble on top of today's isn't strength, and it isn't foresight. It's overdraft, spending resources you don't have yet on a bill that hasn't even come due. The consequence of ignoring this statement is specific and measurable. You become useless in today's actual assignment because you're spending today's strength on a crisis that hasn't arrived, might not arrive, and isn't yours to carry in advance. Meanwhile, the actual trouble scheduled for today, the one Jesus already promised would be enough on its own, gets neglected because your attention was somewhere else entirely. Statement 3. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Luke 12:22-23. This one gets ignored because it sounds obvious right up until you actually try to apply it to your own life this week. Most worry isn't really about survival, no matter how it's dressed up. It's about status, comparison, and control disguised as practical concern. Will there be enough? Will it look right? Will people notice if it isn't? Jesus isn't asking you to stop caring about provision, about food or clothing or rent. He's asking you to notice exactly what you've quietly upgraded ordinary worry into and how far it's drifted from the original concern. Track it back far enough, and most anxious thoughts end at the same destination. What will people think, not what will actually happen? 5 statements. 2 are already behind you, and if either one landed uncomfortably, that's exactly the point. Jesus wasn't gentle about this particular subject, because worry isn't a small habit to him. It's a competing God, quietly running your decisions. Statement 5 closes this out completely, so don't leave early. But right now, look at the one people skip past the fastest, because it sounds too simple to be the actual answer. Statement 4. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. John 14:1. Notice the order carefully, because it's the whole statement. Jesus doesn't say, don't be troubled because everything will work out fine. He says, stop being troubled because of who you trust. Full stop. No conditions attached to the outcome. That's a completely different instruction than the one most people are actually obeying. It's why so many people can't follow it. They're waiting for circumstances to change first, for the situation to resolve, when Jesus is asking for belief before any evidence shows up to justify it. The boundary is uncomfortable, but it's exact. Your peace was never supposed to be downstream of your circumstances improving. It was supposed to be downstream of who you decided to believe before anything changed at all. Quick reset, because this is where the whole thing either clicks or gets dismissed as a nice sentiment for a wall calendar. 4 statements down, and every single one points in the exact same direction. Worry isn't a feeling Jesus wants you to manage better with breathing techniques. It's a trust problem he's addressing directly by name without softening it for your comfort or anyone else's. Hold that, because statement 5 is the one most sermons never actually get to before running out of time. Statement 5, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28-29. This is not a general invitation to relax on a Sunday afternoon. Weary and burdened is precise language for the exact state chronic worry produces over time. The specific exhaustion of carrying something you were never designed to carry alone for this long without setting it down once. The rest offered here isn't the absence of problems, and it was never going to be. It's the removal of a weight that was never actually yours to hold in the first place, no matter how long you've been holding it out of habit, out of fear, or because nobody ever told you that you were allowed to set it down. Here's what almost nobody points out about these 5 statements taken together. None of them tell you to simply try harder to stop worrying through willpower. Every single one redirects the weight somewhere else entirely, to a Father who already knows exactly what you need before you ask, to a day that hasn't arrived yet and was never your responsibility, to a person you're invited to trust instead of manage on your own. Most people ignore this teaching sincerely, not out of rebellion, because trusting is genuinely harder than worrying. Worry feels active. It feels like doing something productive, like staying sharp. Trust feels like doing nothing at all, and that terrifies people who've quietly built their entire identity around staying vigilant, around being the one who worries so nobody else has to. But the very people Jesus was speaking to when he said these 5 things weren't wealthy, weren't secure, and weren't in control of their circumstances either. They had every practical reason to worry that you have right now, possibly more of them, with less certainty about tomorrow than you currently have, and he still said every word of it to their faces without qualifying a single sentence. So the real question underneath all 5 statements isn't whether they're true. It's whether you're willing to actually test the one you've been avoiding the longest, the one that exposes exactly which part of your life you've quietly refused to hand over to anyone, including him, and what actually happens the moment you finally,